Sexual assault investigation lands one of the members of Pawn Stars in trouble. Austin Russell, better known as Chumlee, is in jail tonight.
Not all Pawn Stars members survived the fame. While millions watched Rick Harrison and the others haggle over documents and rare antiques, what they never saw was the real lives that unfolded behind the scenes. Some of the Pawn Stars cast members tragically passed away, while others faced legal trouble that threatened everything they'd built. What really happened to the stars of Pawn Stars after the cameras stopped rolling, and how did fame turn against them? Join us as we uncover the shocking stories of Pawn Stars members who have died or ended up in jail. Richard Harrison. To viewers, Richard Harrison was the authority behind the counter, stern-faced, sharp-witted, and rarely impressed. But behind that calm, no-nonsense demeanor was a man who had spent decades building the business that made the show possible. Known to be one of the most recognizable personalities on the television series Pawn Stars, Richard had always maintained a steady presence until he faced a tragedy. Before Pawn Stars, Richard served in the United States Navy for 20 years, an experience that shaped the straightforward attitude fans later saw on television. After leaving the military in 1979, Richard moved with his family to Las Vegas and began working toward opening what would eventually become the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. In 1989, he opened the store alongside his son, Rick Harrison. What began as a modest pawn business began to grow into one of the most popular pawn shops in the United States. When Pawn Stars premiered on the History Channel in 2009, Richard quickly became a fan favorite. While Rick handled negotiations, Corey Harrison and Austin Lee Russell brought humor and chaos to the shop floor. Richard, the old man, on the other hand, represented discipline. He rarely spoke without purpose, but when he did, the message was clear. Most of the time, his words carried weight. However, Richard Harrison couldn't escape the inevitable challenges of aging and illness. On June 25, 2018, Richard Harrison died at the age of 77 after battling complications related to Parkinson's disease. His passing marked a significant loss for the Harrison family and for fans who had watched him for nearly a decade on television. Tributes poured in from viewers who appreciated the honesty and dry humor he brought to the show. Although the shop and the series continued after his death, his influence remains deeply tied to their success. The values he emphasized still remain an integral part of the legacy he left behind. While Richard Harrison ruled the pawn shop with experience and authority, a younger Harrison was learning. What happened to him in the long run? Corey Harrison. Corey Harrison grew up inside the Pawn Stars right from his childhood. Long before Pawn Stars premiered on television, he was already learning the pawn trade from his father, Rick Harrison, and his grandfather, Richard Harrison. By the time the show premiered in 2009, Corey was not just showing as a part of the family, but he was already managing daily operations at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas. In Season 7, filmed in 2012, Corey informed his father and grandfather that he would take a job at another business if he is not given a 10% partnership in the shop. However, he remains with the shop after he is given a raise and a 5% partnership, with the possibility of a greater stake in the business in the future. On television, Corey quickly developed a reputation for his direct personality and frequent disagreements with Rick. Their arguments became a familiar part of the show, often centered on pricing decisions, business strategy, or how the shop should adapt to modern changes. But those disagreements also reflected Corey's role in pushing the business forward. While Rick relied on experience and caution, Corey often advocated for new ideas, technology, and faster deal-making. Over time, he proved he could handle major negotiations and large purchases, earning respect from both customers and viewers. However, Despite the confident image he projected on screen, Corey's life outside the shop has included several difficult moments. In 2014, he was involved in a serious motorcycle accident that left him with significant injuries and a long recovery period. It was reported that he purposefully jumped off his motorcycle to avoid a worse crash. The accident broke his hand, leaving him injured on his birthday. He ended up needing 8 screws and 2 plates surgically placed into the broken hand. Around the same time, his personal life was also changing. His marriages ended in divorce, forcing him to balance physical recovery with major personal adjustments. The experience reportedly changed his outlook and made him more focused on health and long-term stability. Legal trouble has also appeared at different points in his life. In 2011, Corey was arrested after an altercation at a bar where he allegedly pushed a security guard and a deputy. Another incident occurred years later in Las Vegas. In September 2023, police stopped Corey's truck after noticing it swerving between lanes near the intersection of Main Street and Charleston Boulevard. The officers had suspected he might be driving under the influence and asked him to perform field sobriety tests. According to the officers, Corey showed signs that suggested impairment, including difficulty maintaining balance.
Metro Police arresting Pawn Stars Corey Harrison early Friday morning, accusing him of driving drunk. A police report obtained by 8 News Now says Harrison was swerving while driving a truck.
The authorities collected a blood sample for testing, and Corey was booked on suspicion of driving under the influence. However, he was released several hours later while awaiting results. Corey's escapades did not end there. In late 2026, he found himself facing a battle far more serious than any deal he ever negotiated on television. A few days before his father's wedding, he got into another car accident. The accident left him with devastating injuries, including 11 broken ribs, a punctured lung, a concussion, and internal bleeding, forcing him to spend weeks in the hospital and draining nearly all his savings. Now in recovery, Corey made an emotional plea to his fans, asking for their support as he struggles to cover medical bills that reportedly climbed past $100,000. In a moment of honesty, he admitted that the crash left him with almost nothing financially. While Corey Harrison fights to get back on his feet, another member, Austin Lee, has his own rough share of life. Austin Lee Russell. Unlike the serious negotiators behind the counter, Austin Lee, better known as Chumlee, brought humor and unpredictability to the shop. Chumlee grew up as a close friend of Corey Harrison since childhood and became a trusted member in the Harrisons' family. This was how he first started working at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas. He started out by doing odd jobs, assisting customers, and slowly learning the business. When Pawn Stars premiered in 2009, Chumlee quickly became a breakout personality. He often played the role of the curious outsider, asking questions viewers at home might also be wondering about. His relaxed attitude and occasional mistakes made him relatable, and fans embraced him as the show's comic relief. While Rick Harrison handled most of the negotiations and Richard Harrison represented the older generation's discipline, Chumlee added personality to the shop floor. But in March 2016, his life took a serious turn. Police officers in Las Vegas arrived at Chumlee's home with a search warrant connected to a sexual assault investigation. Although Chumlee was never charged with sexual assault and was later cleared of that allegation, the search uncovered something else that created major legal trouble. Officers reported finding controlled substances, including methamphetamine and marijuana, along with prescription medication without documentation and several firearms. Chumlee was arrested and initially faced numerous drug-related charges along with a weapons charge. The news spread quickly and shocked fans of the show. For someone known mostly for humor and light-hearted moments on television, The situation was suddenly very serious. If convicted on the original charges, he could have faced significant prison time. A few months later, the case was resolved through a plea agreement. Chumlee pleaded guilty to a felony weapons charge and a reduced drug-related offense. In exchange, many of the other charges were dropped. Instead of serving jail, the court ordered him to complete 3 years of probation. He was made to attend counseling and surrender the weapons and illegal substances found during the search. He was also charged to pay a $62,000 bond. The incident could have ended his television career, but it ultimately became a turning point. After the case, Chumlee focused on improving his health and lifestyle. He adopted a healthier routine, underwent weight loss surgery, and lost more than 100 pounds. In addition to returning to Pawn Stars, he also opened a candy shop in Las Vegas. For Chumlee, fame brought success, but it also brought personal challenges. What is the life story of the next person on the list? Adam Harrison. Adam Harrison was part of the wider Harrison family, even though most Pawn Stars viewers never saw him on camera. He was born into the world of the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas and was one of Rick Harrison's 3 sons from his first marriage. Unlike his brother Corey Harrison, Adam did not become a regular on the long-running History Channel show, and his life unfolded largely outside the spotlight. Despite staying out of the public eye, Adam remained close to his family. Those who knew him said he struggled with personal issues for many years, particularly with substance abuse. However, his father and family supported him through repeated efforts to get help over time. This includes the several occasions when Rick reportedly admitted Adam to rehab in hopes of turning his life around. Tragically, on January 19, 2024, Adam was found unresponsive in a guest house in the Las Vegas area and was pronounced dead at the age of 39. A medical examiner later determined that he died from fentanyl and methamphetamine toxicity, and his death was ruled an accidental overdose. Rick Harrison confirmed that fentanyl was involved and publicly criticized the broader fentanyl crisis sweeping across the United States, saying it had turned his son into someone he wasn't. The news stunned both the Pawn Stars community and fans around the world because Adam's struggles had typically remained private. Rick Harrison shared a heartfelt tribute and photos of Adam on social media, and wrote that Adam would always be in my heart, and asking for privacy as the family grieved. In interviews months later, Rick, his father, described the ongoing pain of loss and how he continues to think about Adam every day, speaking candidly about the challenges of watching a child battle addiction and the sense of helplessness that came with it. Adam's death stood out among Pawn Stars-related news because it wasn't tied to the show's business or drama, but to a very real and painful issue affecting families across the country. While Adam's death remains one of the saddest moments, his father, Rick, went through different highs and lows. Rick Harrison. Rick Harrison is the central figure behind the success of the television series Pawn Stars. As the son of Richard Harrison and the father of Corey Harrison, Rick represents the middle generation of a family business that eventually became a global television franchise. On the show, he is usually the one leading negotiations. He would always ask detailed questions, examine items carefully, and decide whether a deal is worth making. Rick had already spent years building the business with his father before the show began airing. In 1989, they opened the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas, starting as a small operation that depended on local customers. Rick developed a reputation for knowing a little about almost everything, from rare coins and historical weapons to vintage toys and documents. His broad knowledge often became a key part of the show's appeal. Sellers would walk into the shop hoping for a big payday, but Rick's job was to determine whether their stories and their items were real. When Pawn Stars premiered in 2009, Rick quickly became the face of the series. His negotiating style was calm but direct. He often challenged sellers' claims, brought in expert appraisers when necessary, and pushed for deals that protected the shop's profit. That balance of skepticism and curiosity helped turn ordinary transactions into compelling television. Viewers came to expect Rick's signature line when a deal got complicated. He would call in a specialist to verify the item before making a final offer. However, life outside the shop has not always been smooth. After Richard Harrison died in 2018, Rick faced both personal grief and the responsibility of continuing the family legacy without the man who helped build it. In the years that followed, the family experienced internal tension over estate matters. Reports surfaced that Rick's mother had become involved in a legal dispute related to family assets, bringing unwanted public attention to a private issue. As if that was not enough, he lost his son. This tragedy hit Rick harder than any business loss ever could. Rick faced a grief so raw, it shook the foundation of his family life. The tragedy left him grappling with guilt, helplessness, and a constant ache that no amount of fame or success could ease. Despite those challenges, Rick remained focused on the business that made the Harrison family famous. He continues to run the gold and silver pawn shop and appears regularly on Pawn Stars and its related projects. As Rick Harrison wrestles with personal loss and the weight of family, another person dealt with rumors and regrets from her past life: Olivia Black. For a short time, Olivia Black was one of the newer faces behind the counter on Pawn Stars. Introduced during Season 5 of the show in 2012, she worked at the gold and silver pawn shop and quickly stood out to viewers. Unlike the longtime family-centered personalities fans were used to, Olivia brought a different energy to the shop. She handled customer interactions, helped process items coming into the store, and appeared in several episodes assisting with transactions. Although she wasn't a central figure like Rick Harrison or Corey Harrison, some fans appreciated seeing a new employee learning the pawn business in real time. For a while, it seemed like she might become a regular part of the series, but her time on the show ended suddenly. In 2014, reports surfaced online involving modeling photos from Olivia's past that appeared on adult websites. Once the images began circulating widely on the internet, the situation quickly became controversial. Because Pawn Stars airs on the History Channel, a network that maintains strict standards regarding public image, the issue created a difficult position for the producers. Not long after the photos resurfaced, Olivia Black soon stopped appearing on the show. She later explained publicly that she had been let go from the series, despite the fact that the photos were taken before she ever worked at the pawn shop. The situation sparked debates among fans about privacy and whether someone's past should affect their current career. However, nothing could be done as the show valued the image it projected to viewers more than anything else. While her time on Pawn Stars was brief, Olivia Black's story highlights the loss of privacy that comes with sudden fame. When someone becomes recognizable on a popular show, even details from years earlier can quickly resurface and reshape their public image. After leaving the series, Olivia moved on to other projects and continued working in entertainment and online media. Next is the man whose knowledge becomes an interesting part of the show. How is his life now? Mark Hall-Patton. Even though Mark was never a full-time member of the main cast, his face was recognizable on the show. With his large white beard, bright red glasses, and calm, thoughtful voice, viewers quickly gave him a nickname that stuck: the Beard of Knowledge. Whenever a seller walked into the shop with an old document or a historical artifact with a complicated backstory, the answer from behind the counter was often the same: call Mark. Unlike many television experts who appear briefly for entertainment, Mark brought decades of real academic and museum experience to the show. Long before the cameras, Mark had built a career in historical preservation and museum administration. He served for years as the administrator of the Clark County Museum System in Nevada, where his work focused on protecting historical artifacts, curating exhibitions, and educating the public about regional and American history. His role involved everything from cataloging rare artifacts to developing programs that helped communities better understand the past. That deep background made him especially valuable on Pawn Stars. While Rick Harrison often negotiated the price of an item, Mark's job was different. His job was to help answer a more important question. What is this piece of history? And is the story behind it true? Mark approached each object as part of a larger historical narrative. His explanations frequently revealed details that casual collectors might overlook. These include the handwriting styles, paper aging, historical context, or the social significance of the item. What set Mark apart on the show was the fact that he was steady and rarely raised his voice or delivered dramatic reactions. Nevertheless, away from television, Mark spent decades dealing with the demanding realities of museum work. He was often overwhelmed with tight budgets, constant responsibility of protecting fragile artifacts, and the challenge of preserving history for future generations. After many years in the field, he eventually stepped back from his leadership role with the Clark County Museum System in 2021, closing an important chapter in a long career dedicated to historical education. Even outside the museum world, his reputation remains closely tied to Pawn Stars. For many viewers, Mark's passion represents why history matters, proving that behind every artifact lies a story worth preserving. Which Pawn Stars member story surprised you the most? Do you think Pawn Stars helped the people who made it famous, or did it slowly destroy them? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.